Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we have a small problem on our hands, and that is that we don't sort or load parcels currently. So, let's go ahead and implement some functions here. Public, I think void, sort parcels, and then we pass in the number of parcels to sort, right? So, int parcels to sort. Okay. The next question is, what about loading? Okay, so here's the problem that I foresee. So, we've got our packages sorted, okay? They're sitting here in the sorted parcels list, and they're ready to be picked up. So we need to load them into a vehicle, right? But what if we have someplace with multiple vehicles that are currently in their berth inside of this building? We load them in, but how do we know which vehicle is going to be in a position to deliver this? Well, maybe what we need to do is have the pickup go on a route, but the delivery is done autonomously, like outside of a route. And then the question is, well, how are we going to go about doing that? Well, we'd need to sort the list of things that it had and go to whichever one is closest. So we'd need to sort by distance. But we'd also want to have some form of, like, Euler circuit type of thing so that it wouldn't backtrack as much as possible. Or maybe just leave it at it just goes to whatever the next closest one is. And that would be a quasi-legit path? I don't know. But maybe we should have different vehicles for pickup and for delivery. So then they follow the route for pickup, but not for delivery. Because you probably don't want to have to be constantly readjusting the route for every single package that comes in. Or you can set up the route so that it hits every single hex in a building hex, or rather in a biome hex, right? So you could set it up so that theoretically it would come in kind of like this. So we'll skip the tutorial and we'll come on in here, and then we would go ahead and purchase, say, this factory, demolish this, create a route there, make sure that we select our route, and then so we have these hexes here that are all currently covered, and we should probably have some sort of a map mode here where we can color the hexes that are actually covered by this. That's something we should probably do. And then we can come up here, so like these hexes are all covered, these hexes are all covered, and then we would come over to here, and so on and so forth, and then we would essentially, while in edit route mode here, we would make it so that we can see what hexes are covered at any given time. So like, for example, in this current situation, these two over here, well, this one in particular, would never be covered unless we left the road. So there's that. That's a problem we're going to have to sort out. So then we'd come up over here, and then maybe like to here, and then maybe like to here. But this doesn't connect back up over here, so this is just kind of an inefficient hex, right? So it's going to go like that, but it's also going to backtrack all the way back because it doesn't connect up. It might be faster, realistically, to come over here, although we just null reference exceptioned. Why did we null reference exception? Path failed. No connection found. That's odd. That's very odd. Argument out of range exception. What is even happening? Now we're just getting argument out of range exceptions. Line 480 of the hex manager. Okay. What is line 480 of the hex manager? World hex equals potential seeds hex index. Potential seeds equals new list world hex. Where do we populate it? Right here. So we populate it in map IJ. Let's try running this again. It's out of range exceptioning every time. Why did it not out of range exception before? Okay, it didn't that time. I'm quite confused by what's happening here. Is it because it's all water when it out of range exceptions? Maybe. It's a possibility, I suppose. So we want to test this here. We have to do it in a hex we own. So we'll go ahead and purchase this clearing. And then we'll create a route here. Select our route. And I want to pop over here. Null reference exception. Object reference not set to instance of an object. So. Why are we not getting a path? We should be getting a path between these hexes. They should be connected. Right? I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm pretty sure the null reference exceptions when we start this up is because it was all water. So, like, for example, if we were to come in here in the hex manager, and no, go away. In the hex manager, if we were to come up here, and you can see it only adds it in if it's not a hex classification .water. So, what that ends up meaning is that our water seeds can potentially completely overwhelm everything, which would be a problem. So, perhaps what we need to do is, like, recurse this. So we would then recreate the height. Right here, do if potential seeds equals 0. Or rather, potential seeds.count equals 0. Then we would create height. And return from this after that, because create height will call create urban again, I believe. Maybe we should make this while potential seeds.count equals 0. Then we create the height. This is just going to infinite loop right now, though. Unless we were to create urban here, we might run in... We could theoretically run into a Stack Overflow error there. We could just copy this in, theoretically. So, like, put this in right here. And then potential seeds.clear. I mean, it's going to be 0. So there's not going to be anything in it. We don't need to clear it. And we just run this. That should fix that problem, theoretically. Okay. So, then we come on in here. And now the question is, why do we apparently not connect interhex? Yeah, we're not connecting interhex in multiple hexes. Let's delete that. And I'm going to test something here. Create route, select this route. I'm going to zoom out, and we're going to come in all the way up over here. Now I expect this to take a while. Well, isn't that fascinating? So it actually worked, doing it that way. We did still get an argument out of range exception. Which is intriguing. And it took a while, probably because we had to generate biomes for this world hex here. So let's do a little bit more testing here. I'm going to go ahead and remove this route. And then we're going to go back in here and create another route. And we're just going here. That is definitely taking a long time. Okay, so what did we break in the pathfinding? It would appear that we broke something. Is it still going? Okay, it's not going. Out of memory exception. Well, isn't that intriguing? Okay, let's remove that route and come back in here. So we can say with some level of assurance that it's working fine in here. But then when we attempt to come down over here, we get a null reference exception. When we go up here, it works, but it's slow. When we go in here, we get an out of memory exception. Which is something we haven't experienced before. So the question then becomes, is there something in the way that this is set up that expects it to be 50 by 50? I don't think so. This is all generic. So how did we go about breaking this? Well, is it perhaps to do with neighbors? Well, that didn't change. Except, did it? This is a list of int3s here in hexmanager.getBuildingNeighbors location. I wonder if this has to do with the fact that we are replacing the building. So in this hexmanager.getBuildingNeighbors, how did we implement this? Hexstore biome equals get hexstore by index. So we grab the hex store and then we return biome.neighbors of hex.buildinghex. Which is a list of int3s. And how do we get that? Hang on a moment. That's the problem here. Because we do replace the building. Okay, so at least it's a problem. So in the building hex here. Well, even if we replace that though, that shouldn't change anything. Should it? That shouldn't change anything at all, because the neighbors are separate. They're stored separately from the building. And the neighbors wouldn't change. It's a list of int3s. Okay. So, let's run a quick test here. Let's go back into the building hex. No, this is not where I wanted it. Let's go back into the building hex. And let's just comment this out. .type equals business.selected construction. Let's put this back the way it was and see if that fixes the pathfinding issue. Hopefully it does. We'll, if it does, we'll be able to move forward and fix this relatively easily-ish. Argument out of range exception. That should have been fixed. Why was that not fixed? Weird. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, there we go. So let's come on in here. And we need to purchase a building, doesn't matter which one. Create a route, select the route. And we're going to come on down here. Then we want to come over here. Null reference exception. So, I mean, in that case, we weren't actually changing the owned building, right? So I don't think that's the problem. So we can go ahead and put this back. And then the question is, how did we break inter-hex pathfinding but only partially? And I have no idea what the answer to that question is. I don't recall changing anything that could have related to the pathfinding. That's very strange. Let's see, where do we set that up? This is, I believe, setting up the buildings. Blah, blah, blah. We've got fake positions. Yeah, this is setting up the roads and such. So we need to go into the building hex and figure out where that grabs its neighbors, right? And also where it connects to. So maybe what we need to do is here, debug.log, and I want to log something along the lines of neighbors.count. Just like that. So we should theoretically see when we come in here, if we come in here. Okay. We should theoretically see in here, when we select this hex, it should say 6. It does indeed. When we select this hex, it should be 4, but it's 3. Same here. Same here. Is it because we needed to generate that? That's 5, which is correct. No, it's just that these are not connected. Why are these road connections not connecting? Okay, that's something we're going to need to look into. So, next episode, we're going to be looking into that. Subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time.